Hi, I'm Mary Valamides, and I'm going to go over the review of the 2016 STAR Math Test. As you're watching this video, you may want to double-click on the icon to make the screen larger so that you can see the small print of the items that we're going to go over. Also, at any time, press pause at the bottom of the screen so that you can look over the item and then press play when you're ready to begin again. You may want to download the attachments so that you can refer to them as we go through the video. The PowerPoint will be posted for you so that you can revisit some of these items at your convenience. So some of the handouts that you'll be seeing are the texts, which are on one page, or you can use a scope and sequence. The STAR test from 2016, it has been released. It may be a few more years before we see another STAR test, so we will be using this as our main focus. District heat map. On the district heat map, you'll notice there's a few boxes on there. The first one is the readiness standards in green. The second box would be the supporting standards in yellow, and then we have our process standards and non-tested standards. Notice that these 5 standards will never be tested. Now, in the readiness standards, you'll notice that the very first column is the SE. Second column is checkpoint 1, which is the results from our 2015 STAR test. And the third column are the results from our 2016 STAR test. So you can compare from 2015 to 2016 to see the gains that we've made. Of course, red is very critical and orange is cautionary, so we want to make sure that we really look at those SEs that are our lowest scoring items. Also, there's an item analysis available by campus. You'll see that it's first listed by reporting category, then by the student expectation, and then the item number that's on the STAR test. Then you'll see how we scored in BISD, and then the rest of the campuses are listed for you so that you can see how your campus scored in comparison to other campuses as well as BISD's district scores. Then you also have a district item analysis where it takes every item and breaks it down with the percentage of students that selected the correct answer as well as the percentage of students that did not select the correct answer. So if we look at the very first one, it's item number 1. It's from reporting category 1. It is 4.2G, which since there's an R next to it, it is a readiness standard. These 4 SCs with the P are the process standards. Then you notice the first green box, that's the correct answer. So whenever you see the green, that A was the correct answer. Then you'll see the percentages of how the kids did on B, C, and D. Obviously, this one is a very good scoring item because the wrong answer choices are very close. But if you look at item number 2, 42.61% of our students chose H, which was more than the 39.14% that chose G, which was the correct answer. So you might want to look at H and see what was the distractor on letter H. Now, at the very, very last row shows you the percentage of students who did not answer the question. They didn't even guess. So looking at reporting categories, we have reporting category 1. 78% of our students mastered reporting category 1. That was our strongest reporting category. Then reporting category 2, we had 67% mastery. And then reporting category 3 was our lowest scoring category with 54%. Anytime we see such a gap between our different percentages, we know that there's something that we need to really focus in on. And in this case, it is really reporting category 3. Reporting category 4, there was 65% mastery. We're going to be looking at each of these reporting categories as we focus in on our lowest and highest scoring items. We're also going to be looking at the format of the items, the format of the answer choices, the nuances of the test. Items I really want you to notice because they're a little different than what we've had in the past. And throughout all of this, I'm going to ask you, what is the impact on instruction? What does it make you think that we might want to do differently? So the format of the items. Now, when we're looking at the items, this does not include the answer choices. So there's 5 different formats. One is just a question. The second one would be a narrative and then a break with numbers, equations, or expressions, and then a break and a question. You'll see there's 4 different ones listed, and just mixing these 3 things. Number 3 would be a narrative and a question. This could be in one paragraph, or it could be a narrative with a break and a question. Number 4 is a narrative, break, question, break, narrative. Or it could be a narrative, break, narrative, and then a question. In any case, number 4 would have 2 narratives. Number 5 would be a narrative with a visual and then a question. The visual could be a diagram, a table, graph, a number line. So remembering these 5 basic types, and you should probably have the sheet of paper that has this breakdown for you. It is one of those attachments. So now we're going to do the activity of just looking at a problem and a question, and again, do not look at the answer choices, and I want you to classify the problem as being one of these 5 types. So number 11. Number 11 is a question, nothing but a question. Look at number 27. The big thing to remember about 27 is that there's a visual. There is a narrative, a visual, and then a question. So this one is visuals. 36. Notice with this one, we have a narrative and then a question. So this is narrative and question. 37. 37 has a narrative, and then it has a break with 2 bullets, which is another narrative, and then a question. So this one would be a narrative, narrative, and question. And then number 6. Number 6 has a narrative, but then after the narrative, you see an expression, and then a question. So this one is numbers, equations, or expressions, and then a question. If we were to do this activity with all of the items per reporting category, what do you think we would have the most of from these 5 different types of questions? Well, let's look. Here are the results of the 5 basic format of items. A question, there were only 6 items, which is 12.5% of the test. Numbers, equations, and expressions, there were 4 items, which is 8% of the test. Narrative and question, there were 17 items, which is 35% of the test. And a narrative, question, narrative, there were 7 questions, which is 14.5% of the test. Visuals, which would be diagrams, tables, graphs, number lines, there were 14 questions, which would be 29% of the test. So you can see this test is heavy on narrative and questions and using visuals. So as you think about that, what is the impact on instruction? And when you write your test, do you have visuals in your question? So next we're going to look at format for answer choices. So now we're just going to look at the answer choices and not the questions. Looking at these 5 types, you'll see we have number 1, numeric, which has numbers or numbers with units or fractions. It could be even numbers with degrees for 4th grade. Number 2 would be algebraic. This time it would be expressions and equations. They have operational symbols. Number 3, a visual. Again, it could be a table, a diagram, a graph, or number lines. Number 4 is a griddable item. And number 5 is verbal. It would have either sentences, phrases, or words. But ones that say 27 cats and dogs or 32 animals, that we wouldn't consider verbal. it would be mostly numeric. So whenever you have a number with a unit, it would fall under numeric. So looking at number 8, look at just F, G, H, and J. What type would this be? This would be algebraic. As you can see at the very bottom, we have equations. So therefore, this is in an algebraic format. Look at number 3. This one being that we have numbers with the degree symbol. This is numeric. Look at number 5. This does have numbers in it, but again, these are tables. So this would be a visual. Look at number 13. Because number 13 says record your answer and fill in the bubbles on your answer document, be sure to use the correct place value at the very bottom. That tells us this is a griddable item. Now notice this griddable item, you had to finish the grid, the table, and then do a multi-step problem. This griddable item is different than what we've had before because we have a visual on a griddable item. So this is a griddable item. Here's number 9. And it's verbal. We have sentences, phrases, and words. So in this case, we have a listing of words. So what type of answer choice would this be? And this would be algebraic. So if we do this activity and look at the entire test, which one do you think would have the most for our answer choices? Numeric, algebraic, griddable, verbal, or visual? 21 items were numeric, which was 44% of the test. Most of our test was numeric. Number 2, algebraic, was 10% with only 5 items. Number 3, our griddables, there will always be 3 items, so that will always be 6% of our test. Number 4, verbal, there were 9 items, and that was 19% of our test. And then number 5, visual, there were 10 items, which is 21% of the test. So now if you think about earlier, we said we had 29 items that the format of the question had visuals, and now we have 21% where the answer is visual. So if you notice, half of the test items would either have a visual in the question or in the answer. So we need to make sure we're using visuals more than we may be using them currently. So what is the impact on instruction? You have a handout that's available that has taken all the SEs, and if you look at this handout, you'll notice first it starts with the item number, then the reporting category, whether it's a readiness or supporting standard, the student expectation that was tested, the process standards that were tested, the correct answer, so you basically have the answer document of the STAR test, and then our district performance, the percentage of kids that did meet standard, and then the rating. By this I mean if you have 48, number 48, that is the highest scoring item. However, if you have a 1, it is the lowest scoring item. So you'll notice the highest scoring items are green, the lowest scoring items are red. Now, the next thing you'll have is the format of the answer, the question, and then the format of the answer choices. So you basically have all the information from each item. So when you are teaching a student expectation, you can look to see how it was tested, what kind of item it was. Then also, if you notice, anything that is reporting category 1 is more of that salmon color. Anything that's reporting category 2 would be a light blue color. Anything that's reporting category 3 is mustard color, and 4 is green. So that way you can even see most of our green seem to have fallen in reporting category 1. So you might want to look, well, where did our red fall? And you probably have guessed it, it would be in our geometry section. So now we're going to look at the highest scoring items per reporting category. And I just want you to just look at the items briefly and see what do you find in common with these highest scoring items. We're going to look at them by reporting category. As I'm going through this, you'll see it'll have the reporting category, such as this is reporting category 1. This was the highest scoring item in this reporting category, and it was covering text 4.3D. Our mastery of it was 87 and 99/100%. It was the third highest on the entire test. So anything in parentheses will tell you about the entire test. So now I'm going to be quiet and let you look at the items as I scroll through them. You're looking for commonalities between them. So what do you notice about the highest scoring items? Most of the items were one-step problems. The visuals were pretty easy to understand and to apply. The answer choices were short, and the question stem wasn't very wordy. Now if we go back to this last one, it looks like it might be a little bit more wordy, but if you think about it, it is a complete representation of the dot plot to the table. So this was just a basic step problem. Now we're going to do the same thing with the lowest scoring items per reporting category. Again, it will have the same structure on the items. This one they had to interpret the remainder. They had to convert grams to kilograms. Had to find the area of each half of the paper. They had to finish the table before solving the problem. So what did you notice about the lowest scoring items? Most of these items were multi-step problems. The visuals were very critical to the answer, the vocabulary was critical, and the question stems may have been more wordy. These were more difficult problems for the kids. Unfortunately, some of the resources that we have, such as Texas Go Math, does not let the kids distinguish between a multi-step and a one-step problem. Most of the multi-steps are the hot problems. So you might want to mix up some items for the kids so that they can have that ability to distinguish between a multi-step problem and a one-step problem. So that to me is the most important impact on our instruction in this particular case. But what other impact do you see on instruction? One thing to consider as well is using UPS Check as much as possible. So how can we improve? Look at the cognitive alignment. Activities are aligned, make sure they're aligned to the text. Make sure you pay special attention to the verbs of the text. If it says representation, it might just be a representation with an equation. Vocabulary, please teach the vocabulary. Refer to them throughout the lessons because you can see how often vocabulary appeared in these items. Assessments, give more open-ended questions, even if it's just 1 or 2 questions as a ticket out, because when the kids are thinking and explaining or justifying, then they're internalizing that information more. Also, if you get away from multi-choice items, you'll notice an increase in the student gains. The lowest scoring concepts that we just went over, you might spiral review them after you've taught them so that the information is fresh on the students' minds. So that could be a workstation you have throughout the year. Computation. Some of these items are missed based on computation, so please review your basic facts regularly. You'll see that sheet coming up in just a second, what it looks like. Also, they're in the pacing guides. And problem solving. Have the kids use UPS check. You don't have to do the 4 square. Just go through the thinking of it. What is it I need to find? What strategies am I going to use? And checking to make sure that you followed what we needed to find and that you did use your strategies. This is a basic facts and skills sheet. It's in Eduphoria, and it tells you by grade level, such as here's 4th grade, this white row going across. It's broken up, It's broken up by 9 weeks so that you can see if it's stage 1 and the descriptions of the stages are here at the top. The kids are learning the procedural knowledge of this particular item, such are the conceptual understanding of it. Stage 2, they have strategies for remembering how to do this, and stage 3 is when they can do it with automaticity. So you can see by January the 13th, this is what the focus is going to January the 13th. For October 21st, the very first column is our focus. So questions from the STAR test that I'd like to share with you. Here are I've taken all the question stems and I've put the items in order by question stems. Again, our colors are the same. The blue is for reporting category 2, 1 for salmon, 3 the mustard colored ones, and 4 is supporting. But if you notice, we have the item number, the reporting category, the readiness or supporting standard is labeled, the student expectation that is tested, the performance met standard for our district is listed, and the rating, just like we had earlier on the other document. So number 3 here and in red is our 3rd lowest item, and we scored 33%. Now all these questions were sorted by the very first word in the question stem. So you can see we're starting first with our how questions. You'll notice that they're mostly blue, which tells us they come mostly from reporting category 2. And then you see our questions, there's a few red and a few green. So look at these items to see where were our strengths, what kind of questions may be our weaknesses, what kind of question stems do we use per reporting category. Here are some other questions to consider as you're looking over this handout. You can pause the video now and look at this handout and just analyze those question items, or you can do it at the end. Nuances of the STAR test. Not questions are in this test, but notice it's only bolded and lowercase in some instances. But there was an item, number 12, that was not bolded. So I don't know if this was a mistake or if this is where we're going to next. Just be aware that we're going to test this on the CBA as not being bolded, so the kids are used to it. Various answer choices. This was a new way of testing that we've now started in 3rd grade. It used to be in high school, but I'm noticing this in the geometry strand in all the grades 3, 4, and 5. Notice that we have 2 answer choices that the kids are to pick. In some cases, there are 3 or 4 in one and possibly 2 in another. So they've mixed it up a little bit. The items in some instances are more rigorous, such as this particular item where you have to add 2 more to the 3 to be able to get the width. So there's more steps that you make as you create or a visual of what this could look like before figuring out the perimeter. Not here. There weren't any not here items in 4th grade. He's saying a double negative, but yes, we didn't have any in 4th grade, but I wanted you to see that we did have had one in 3rd and one in 5th. So it is very possible you'll have a not here item as an answer choice in 4th next year. Griddable items were a little bit more rigorous this year. Notice number 26 is similar to what we've had in the past. Here we have a multi-step problem. But then number 13, as we've already seen, the kids have a visual that they have to finish before they do the multi-step problem. Now, when you're doing griddable items, historically, our students haven't done very well on them. One reason might be because it's not a multi-choice item, but another possibility is that they have not had as much experience with griddable items. So if you look in Eduphoria, look under yearly content documents first, and then state assessment information, you'll find STAR practice grids for grade 4, and then the attachment has the grids, and when you open it up, you'll see a page of grids that you can use your snipping tool and copy and paste on the assessments that you make. So the kids are doing it more of an open response type of answer instead of a multi-choice answer. I also want you to notice these items. Use UPS Check. We've learned a lot about closed reading strategy. With closed reading strategies for math, you can use the annotation part of it to understand the question in UPS Check. So you might have the kids just highlight or underline some important information. Don't underline the whole question, just the parts that they really need. Also, using your reference chart is really important to use. As you can see on number 8, they did use the ruler. Also, be aware of number lines. They could be horizontal or vertical, but the kids need to be familiar with them. Bulleted and justification. There are more bulleted items with our narrative questions, so be aware that that is a different format that we're seeing more of on all the tests. Diagrams are being used, and notice how this diagram is especially being used. Kids need to know what they mean and how to interpret them. Vocabulary is very important, such as knowing the words perpendicular and segments, obtuse, parallelogram. Now, I do want you to know that 10 texts out of the 41 were not assessed on the 2016 STAR test, which is 24% of our items. Now, since these items were not tested, if you happen to use this test as you prepare for STAR, just be aware that it won't have tested all the different ways they could be tested, and that you're going to miss out on some of these items, 10 of them. And just remember that that doesn't count these 5 that will never be tested. So as we think forward now, as you do your lesson plan design, please effectively align the text to the depth, which is the thinking, the verb of the text, and the complexity, which are the concepts, the context, and the academic vocabulary of the STAR without multiple choice practice or test-taking strategies. And some reminders, use your reference charts. These are a given to the kids, so they need to be aware of how to use them. Use your centimeter grid paper, because the kids do get those for the test. And you have your two-sided whiteboards that have centimeter grid paper on them that you can use. Use those griddable items that are in Eduphoria. Use your UPS Check posters and strategies posters. You might want to give a copy of to the kids so they can have them in their notebook so they can refer to them. Also, be sure to go over your vocabulary with the kids and do interactive word wall activities with them. And when you begin a concept, begin first with manipulatives and then move to the pictorial and then the abstract. Thank you for listening to this presentation. I'm Mary Valamides. Please contact me if you have any questions. Have a good day. Bye.